Did you know that most people you admire aren't more talented than you? The difference is brutal but simple. They developed discipline while others kept waiting for motivation to show up. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. Motivation is like that friend who only shows up when everything is going well. Discipline stays with you when you're exhausted, unmotivated, and scared. Let me be straight with you. I spent years of my life believing I had to feel inspired before taking action. Some days I woke up full of energy, ready to conquer the world. Other days, I didn't even want to get out of bed. And you know what I discovered by studying the Stoics, those philosophers who lived over 2,000 years ago. They had already figured out a secret we still refuse to accept. You don't need to feel like doing something in order to do it. Marcus Aurelius, the man was the emperor of Rome, the most powerful person in the world at the time. And every morning he wrote to himself, "At dawn, when you struggle to get out of bed, remind yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." Think about that. The emperor of Rome had to remind himself of this. He had every reason to stay in bed, surrounded by luxury. But he chose to get up and do what needed to be done. Not because he felt like it, but because it was the right thing to do. This video will completely change how you see discipline. I'm not going to sell you magic formulas or productivity hacks. We're going deep into Stoic wisdom, a practical philosophy that turns slaves into influential thinkers and emperors into wise men. And I promise you this, the final principle I'll share is so powerful that once you truly understand it, you'll never look at your challenges the same way again. So stay with me until the end. Don't skip parts. Don't speed it up. Let this conversation flow. You need to absorb it at the right pace. Now, before we continue, if this content is resonating with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. That helps me bring more content like this, content that actually transforms, not just entertains. And more importantly, comment below what you struggle most to stay disciplined with. Exercise, studying, work, relationships. I want to know your real battle. Let's start at the beginning. What is discipline, really? Because we confuse this a lot. Discipline is not about becoming an emotionless robot. It's not about suppressing who you are or living a rigid, boring life. The Stoics understood something fundamental. Discipline is freedom in disguise. Epictetus, who was a slave before becoming one of the greatest philosophers in history, said something revolutionary. No man is free who is not master of himself. Think about the irony. A man who lived literally in chains understood that the real prison wasn't physical, it was the lack of self-control. Meanwhile, we live physically free, yet enslaved by impulses, laziness, procrastination, and fear. Stoic discipline begins with a concept called the dichotomy of control. It's simple but profound. There are things you control and things you don't. Period. Here's the key insight. Most people waste their energy trying to control what they can't and completely ignore what's actually in their hands. You don't control whether it rains tomorrow. You don't control your boss's mood. You don't control whether someone loves you back. You don't control the economy, politics, or what others think of you. But you do control your actions, your reactions, your thoughts, your effort, and your discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the starting point. When you stop wasting energy on what you can't change and channel everything into what you can control, discipline stops being a burden and becomes a superpower. Let me give you a practical example. You want to lose weight and get in shape. What don't you control? Your genetics, the metabolism you inherited, how much free time you have. What do you control? Whether you eat junk food or not, whether you work out today or not, whether you go to bed early or scroll your phone until 1 a.m. That's it. But here's the hard part no one tells you. Discipline hurts. At first, it hurts a lot. And the Stoics never pretended otherwise. Seneca, advisor to Emperor Nero, wasn't talking about easy things when he said, "It is difficult, yes, but that is precisely why we must do it." Most people quit because they expect it to become easy. They start going to the gym hoping that one day it will feel good to wake up at 5 a.m. to train. They expect studying for a hard exam to become fun. It won't. And that's okay. The Stoics embraced difficulty. They knew that real growth, true transformation, only happens through resistance. Think about a muscle. It only grows when you push it beyond comfort, when it burns, when it hurts. If you only lifted light, comfortable weights, you'd never grow stronger. Your mind, your willpower, your discipline work the same way. They grow in discomfort, not comfort. Now here's something that completely changed the game for me. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. They would imagine everything that could go wrong before it happened. Sounds negative? Think again. When you've already imagined the worst-case scenario, when you've already felt the discomfort mentally, you're prepared. You create preventive discipline. Marcus Aurelius did this daily. He imagined people being rude, problems arising, plans falling apart, and prepared himself to respond with virtue instead of impulse. So when those things actually happened, it wasn't a shock. It was just another day doing his duty. You can do this right now. Think about your goal. Building a business, improving a relationship, getting the body you want. Now imagine everything that could go wrong. Clients don't show up. The person doesn't value you. Results take longer than expected. Feel it. Let it sting a little. Now ask yourself, so what? Am I quitting because of this, or am I continuing anyway? That is Stoic discipline. Not blind optimism, prepared realism. It's looking difficulty in the eye and saying, I knew you were coming, and I'm going through you anyway. There's a quote from Seneca I carry with me. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. Read that again. Let it sink in. The discipline you lack today isn't missing because it's impossible for you. It's missing because you haven't fully decided yet that you will have it, no matter the cost. Now that you understand the foundation, let's get to what really matters. How to build discipline in real life, day by day. When you wake up with no motivation, when everything feels heavy, when that voice in your head says, just do it tomorrow. The Stoics had a healthy obsession with the morning routine, and I'm not talking about 2-hour, overcomplicated rituals. I'm talking about starting the day as the owner of yourself, not a slave to circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote what we now call meditations, but in reality, it was his private journal, never meant to be published. Every morning he was having a conversation with himself, reminding himself of his principles, preparing his mind for the day ahead. And look at what he wrote. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? That's powerful. He turns the simple act of getting out of bed into a question of existential purpose. You're not just getting up. You're fulfilling your role as a human being. You're honoring the opportunity to be alive, and when you see it that way, that warm blanket suddenly loses some of its power over you. Now let's get practical. How do you apply this? First, you need to create what I call non-negotiable agreements with yourself. The Stoics called them precepts. These are simple rules you don't break, no matter what. It's not, I'll try to wake up early. It's, I wake up at 6 a.m. period. It's not, I'll see if I can work out. It's, I train 4 times a week, no exceptions. Seneca had a list of daily exercises he practiced religiously. Every night, he reviewed his actions from the day before. He asked himself 3 questions. What bad habit did I cure today? Which temptation did I resist? In what way did I improve? Imagine doing that every single day. Imagine the level of self-awareness you'd develop. Imagine how fast you'd grow if you constantly checked whether your actions were aligned with your values. You can start today. Grab a notebook or just use your phone, and before going to bed, answer those 3 questions. At first, it'll feel weird, even uncomfortable. You'll see your flaws with brutal clarity, But that's exactly where discipline is born, in the discomfort of facing who you really are versus who you want to become. And since you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just empty talk. So do this real quick. Hit the like button right now. Seriously, pause the video for 2 seconds and click it. It helps more people find this content, and it tells me you're actually absorbing it. Then, in the comments, write, "I control my actions." It might sound simple, even silly, but when you declare it publicly, you create a stronger commitment to yourself. Now back to it. There's another fundamental Stoic principle for discipline: amor fati, love of fate. It sounds mystical, but it's extremely practical. It means accepting and even embracing everything that happens, not because it's good, but because it's real. It's the opposite of complaining, resisting, or wishing things were different. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." That's not resignation, that's strategic intelligence. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it, you save massive amounts of energy. Energy you can channel into productive discipline. Real example, it's raining and you plan to run outside. Most people use that as an excuse. Guess I can't today. Amor fati is accepting the rain and adapting. You train at home. You do body weight exercises. You use the stairs in your building. The rain isn't an obstacle. It's just a circumstance. Your discipline doesn't depend on the weather. It depends on you. Now think bigger. You lost your job. Amor fati isn't pretending everything is fine. It's fully accepting that this happened and asking, "Okay, this is my reality now. What do I do next?" Then you act with discipline. Update your resume, network, learn new skills. You don't waste energy complaining. You invest energy building. Marcus Aurelius lived this to the extreme. He ruled during war, plague, and betrayal. He lost several children, and still, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's genius. The obstacle isn't blocking your progress. It is your progress. Discipline is forged by overcoming difficulty. Now here's something almost no one talks about. Discipline isn't constant. It's built from small decisions, repeated thousands of times. The Stoics understood that greatness doesn't come from heroic moments, but from ordinary actions done consistently. Seneca wrote, "Each day should be regulated as if it were the one that brings up the rear, the one that closes the march, the one that completes our life. Every day matters, not tomorrow, not Monday, not when things are perfect. Today, right now, the decision you're about to make in the next 5 minutes. Will you eat something you know you shouldn't? Small decision, huge cumulative impact. Will you postpone that hard task? Small decision, big consequences. Will you stay in bed for 15 more minutes? Seems insignificant. It's not. Each of these micro decisions is a vote. You're voting for the kind of person you're becoming. And here's the insight that changed everything for me. Stop relying on willpower. Willpower is a limited resource. It runs out. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago, and modern neuroscience confirms it. You only have so much willpower each day. When it's gone, you default to automatic habits. So, what's the solution? Turn discipline into habit. Remove the need to decide. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up every morning wondering, "Should I meditate today?" He just did it. It was automatic, part of who he was. You need the same approach. If working out requires a conscious decision every day, eventually you'll quit. But if training is simply what you do at 7 a.m., there's no decision to make. You just act. How do you build habits like that? The Stoics used what we now call habit stacking, linking a new habit to something you already do automatically. Epictetus taught his students to use everyday triggers to practice philosophy. Whenever they saw water, they remembered impermanence. Whenever someone insulted them, they practiced patience. You can do this today. Every time you open your car door, take a deep breath and remember your values. Every time you wash your hands, think of one thing you're grateful for. Every time you sit down to work, place your hand on your chest and commit to full focus for the next 25 minutes. Small rituals attached to existing actions. This builds discipline without conscious effort. You're training your brain to operate at a higher level automatically. And one last crucial piece. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort. They deliberately put themselves in difficult situations to strengthen discipline. Seneca, despite being wealthy, sometimes slept on the floor. He ate simple food, took cold baths. Why? To remind himself that he could endure, that he wasn't a slave to comfort. You don't need to sleep on the floor. Start small. End your shower with cold water. Fast once a week. Leave your phone in another room for a few hours. Wake up 30 minutes earlier than necessary. Every time you choose discomfort on purpose, you tell your brain, I am bigger than my impulses. And that's where real discipline is born. Now I need to be brutally honest with you about something no one likes to admit. You have internal enemies sabotaging your discipline every single day. And the worst part is that most people don't even realize they're being defeated by them. The Stoics identified these enemies with astonishing clarity more than 2,000 years ago, and they're still destroying lives today. The first and most dangerous enemy is what the Stoics called the passions. But be careful with that word. They weren't talking about love or enthusiasm. They meant uncontrolled emotions that take over your behavior. Anger that makes you explode and destroy relationships. Fear that paralyzes you and stops you from acting. Insatiable desire that keeps you chasing more without ever feeling satisfied. Sadness that drags you down and drains your energy. Seneca wrote something disturbing. Anger is a brief madness. And he was right. How many times have you acted in anger and later regretted it? How many words have you spoken? How many decisions have you made under intense emotion that destroyed things it took you months or years to build? 1 minute of anger can end a friendship that lasted decades. 1 moment of fear can make you quit the dream of your life. Stoic discipline requires developing what they called apatheia. Again, be careful with the translation. This is not apathy in the sense of not caring. It's the ability not to be ruled by your emotions. It's feeling anger, but not acting out of anger. Feeling fear, but not letting fear make your decisions. Wanting something without becoming a slave to that desire. Marcus Aurelius practiced a powerful technique. Whenever something disturbed him, he paused and asked himself, is it the thing itself that upsets me, or my judgment about it? Almost always, it was the judgment. The event itself was neutral. It was the story he told himself about the event that created the disturbance. Let me give you a practical example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The event, a car changed lanes in front of you. Neutral. But then you create a story. That idiot did it on purpose. He doesn't respect me. Who does he think he is? And just like that, you're furious. Your day is ruined. You get home irritated and take it out on the people you love, all because of a story you invented. Now imagine changing the story. Maybe he's having an emergency. Maybe he didn't see me. Maybe he's just a distracted driver, not a personal attack against me. The anger evaporates. You regain your power. This is the mental discipline the Stoics cultivated obsessively. Epictetus took this even further. He said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Everything that knocks you out of discipline isn't the external event. It's how you interpret that event. And you have control over your interpretations. Complete control. But there's an even more subtle enemy. Distraction. And here's the crazy part. The Stoics didn't have social media, notifications, endless streaming, and they still identified distraction as a killer of potential. Imagine what they would say today. Seneca wrote something that sounds like it was written yesterday. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. He was talking about people who jump from project to project, interest to interest, never going deep into anything. Today, this has multiplied 1,000-fold. You sit down to work, then you check a text message, then an Instagram notification, then you remember something to Google, then you watch a funny video, and suddenly 2 hours are gone, and you've produced nothing of value. Discipline demands singular focus. The Stoics practiced what we now call deep work. They isolated themselves, eliminated distractions, and fully immersed themselves in one task. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world and still found time to write, study philosophy, and train his body. How? Brutal focus. When he was governing, he governed. When he was studying, he studied. No mixing, no multitasking. You need to create physical barriers against distraction. This isn't about willpower, it's about intelligent design. Put your phone in another room when working on something important. Delete social media apps during the week. Install website blockers. Turn off all notifications. Sounds extreme. The Stoics were extreme. Seneca isolated himself for days to write. Epictetus lived a minimalist life so possessions wouldn't distract him. Another brutal enemy is procrastination. But Stoic procrastination is different from what you think. It's not just delaying tasks, it's delaying life. It's living as if you have infinite time. The Stoics were obsessed with death, not in a morbid way, but as a tool for clarity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." He meditated on his own death constantly. Why? Because when you remember that you will die, that time is limited, that today could be your last day. You stop wasting time on nonsense, that pointless argument, not worth it, you could die tomorrow. That grudge you're holding on to, let it go, the clock is ticking. That dream you keep postponing, start today, because someday may never come. Seneca was even more direct. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Most people don't lack time, they lack discipline in how they use the time they have. You have the same 24 hours Marcus Aurelius had. He ruled an empire, trained, studied, and wrote. And you can't work out 3 times a week or read 1 book a month. The problem isn't time. Here's another enemy no one likes to identify: comfort. Yes, comfort is an enemy of discipline. The Stoics understood that an overly comfortable life makes you weak. When you never face hardship, when everything is easy, when you always choose the soft path, you atrophy. Think of a muscle that's never used. It shrinks and weakens. Your discipline works the same way. If you always choose comfort, always avoid discomfort, always take the easy route, your ability to do hard things dies. And then, when life inevitably throws you into a situation that demands strength, you break. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum not just to prepare mentally, but to grow stronger. They imagined losing everything, wealth, health, loved ones, not to be pessimistic, but to build resilience, to remind themselves that they could survive even the worst-case scenarios. You can do this in a less extreme way. Every week, deliberately put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Is there a difficult conversation you've been avoiding? Have it today. That hard workout you always skip, do it today. That scary project, start now. Every time you choose discomfort voluntarily, you strengthen your discipline. And there's one final enemy in this part that I need to mention: comparison. Social media has amplified this massively, but the Stoics warned about it long ago. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do happen." When you compare your journey to someone else's, you lose focus. You start running someone else's race. You abandon your discipline because you think you should be somewhere else, be someone else, have different achievements. That's insanity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How ridiculous and strange to be surprised at anything that happens in life." He knew that every person has their own path, their own challenges, their own timing. Comparing yourself to others is a waste of energy that could be invested in improving yourself. Stoic discipline is about competing with who you were yesterday, not your co-worker, not some influencer, not your sibling. You versus you. Are you better today than yesterday? Yes? then you're winning. No, adjust and try again tomorrow. That's it. Seneca had a beautiful practice. Every night he reviewed his day and asked himself where he improved, where he failed, and what he learned. He didn't compare himself to anyone else. He looked at himself as a lifelong project under construction. That's the real game. You versus your limitations, your weaknesses, your fears. So stop and think, which of these enemies is dominating you right now? Uncontrolled emotions, constant distraction, procrastination, comfort-seeking, comparison. Identify it with brutal honesty, because you can't defeat an enemy you refuse to acknowledge. Now that you know who your enemies are, it's time to build the weapons to defeat them. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that, when practiced together, create unshakable discipline. And here's the most important part. These virtues aren't abstract ideas. They're practical. You can apply them in your daily life starting right now. The first virtue is wisdom, but not wisdom as in accumulating information. The Stoics weren't interested in people who knew a lot. They cared about people who acted well with what they knew. Epictetus was blunt. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. What's the point of knowing everything about discipline, productivity, and success if you don't apply any of it? Stoic wisdom is about discernment, knowing what truly matters and what is just noise, separating the essential from the superficial. And honestly, that's revolutionary in a world that constantly tries to convince you that everything is urgent, everything is important, and everything deserves your attention right now. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has little, but the man who desires more, who is poor." Think about that. You can have little and still be at peace. Or you can have a lot and remain anxious, always chasing more. Wisdom is recognizing what is enough. Having the discipline to stop endlessly chasing more money, more status, more recognition, more things. So how do you practice this? Every day before starting any task, ask yourself, does this really matter? Does this move me closer to the person I want to become? Or is it just noise? Then have the courage to cut what doesn't matter, to say no, to protect your time and energy for what truly counts. Marcus Aurelius had an entire empire demanding his attention, politicians seeking favors, generals asking for resources, citizens bringing endless problems. He could have easily drowned in the urgent and forgotten the important, but he practiced disciplined wisdom. He knew that ruling well mattered, that being a good father mattered, that strengthening his character mattered. The rest, he delegated, ignored, or handled superficially. You need to do the same. Identify the 3 most important things in your life right now. Maybe it's health, family, and career. Maybe it's education, relationships, and a personal project. Whatever they are, identify them. Then protect those 3 things with ferocious discipline. Everything else is negotiable. The second cardinal virtue is courage. And here's the shock. Courage is not the absence of fear. The Stoics felt fear just like anyone else. Marcus Aurelius feared failing as emperor. Epictetus feared punishment when he was a slave. Seneca feared Nero, unstable, violent, unpredictable. But they practiced what they called fortitudo, the strength to continue despite fear. Courage is feeling fear tighten your stomach and doing what must be done anyway. It's facing the difficult conversation, the intimidating project, the necessary change, and saying, "I'm afraid, but I'm doing it." Seneca said something powerful. "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." Read that again. Things seem impossible because you haven't truly tried yet. When you dare, when you apply disciplined courage, the impossible becomes difficult, and the difficult becomes possible. There's a Stoic practice that can change your life. Do one thing every day that scares you. It doesn't have to be huge. Make the call you've been avoiding. Speak up in a meeting. Start the project that feels overwhelming. Say no when you usually say yes. Every time you act despite fear, you train courage. It's exactly like the gym. At first, 5 pounds feels heavy. After weeks, it's easy, and you move on to 10. Courage works the same way. Marcus Aurelius led armies into battle. Was he afraid? Of course. He wrote, "You can endure this. You have endured before and you will endure again. Move forward." He drew strength from past victories to face present fear. You can do that too. Think about everything difficult you've already survived. Loss, rejection, failure, hard seasons. You survived. You're still here. That proves you're stronger than you think. So when fear shows up, remind yourself, I've survived hard things before. I'll survive this too. The third virtue is justice, and it goes far beyond obeying laws. For the Stoics, justice meant doing the right thing, always, even when no one is watching, even when you could get away with doing the wrong thing. That's moral discipline. Epictetus taught, never do anything you wouldn't do openly and without fear. Think about the freedom that brings. When you live with integrity, you don't fear exposure. You don't waste energy hiding, lying, or manipulating. You act rightly and sleep peacefully. And this isn't about perfection. It's about the discipline to correct yourself quickly. Seneca reviewed his mistakes every night. If he realized he had treated someone unjustly, he corrected it the next day. He apologized. He made amends. He learned. That's moral discipline. Recognize the mistake fast and fix it. But Stoic justice also means contribution, not living only for yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We are born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes." He saw humanity as a single organism. Harm another and you harm yourself. Help another and you help yourself. So justice asks you daily, how am I contributing? How am I making the world around me better? Or am I just consuming, taking, using? Then it challenges you to give more than you take, to leave people and places better than you found them. You can practice this today. At work, do more than the bare minimum. At home, help without being asked. With strangers, be kind without expecting anything back. Small acts of justice, practiced consistently, transform both you and the world around you. The fourth and final cardinal virtue is temperance, and this may be the hardest one in the modern world. Temperance is self-control, moderation, the discipline to say enough when you could have more. The Stoics lived in a world of excess, especially in Rome. Endless banquets, excessive drinking, unrestrained pleasure, and in the middle of all that they chose moderation, not because pleasure was evil, but because excess makes you a slave. When you can't stop eating, drinking, spending, scrolling, consuming, you've lost control. You're no longer choosing, you're being controlled. Seneca, who was extremely wealthy, regularly practiced living with very little. He spent days eating only bread and water, wearing simple clothes, sleeping on hard beds. Why? To prove to himself that he didn't need luxury to be happy, to maintain discipline over his desires, so his desires wouldn't control him. You need to do the same. You don't have to become an extreme minimalist, but you do need to regularly prove to yourself that you control your desires, not the other way around. Fast occasionally. Take a day off social media. Spend a weekend without buying anything. Sit in silence for 20 minutes. Every time you voluntarily deny yourself something you want, you strengthen the muscle of temperance, and that muscle saves you when it really matters. When you're tempted to betray a commitment for a moment of pleasure, when you're about to explode in anger, when you want to quit because things get hard. Marcus Aurelius had access to everything: food, drink, pleasure, entertainment, and he chose moderation. He wrote, "How powerful is the man who has power over himself." That is true power, not having but not needing, being able to take and choosing not to. Up to now, we've talked about discipline in everyday life, in small decisions, in routines. But what about when life truly tests you? When you lose someone you love, when your business fails, when you receive a terrifying diagnosis, when everything falls apart? It's in moments like these that Stoic discipline reveals its true power. The Stoics weren't ivory tower philosophers. They lived real tragedies. Marcus Aurelius lost several of his children to illness. He ruled during a devastating plague that killed millions. He faced wars, betrayals, conspiracies. Seneca was exiled, lost his fortune, and was eventually ordered to take his own life by Nero. Epictetus was a slave, physically abused and lived in chains. And here's what's remarkable. They didn't just survive these tragedies. They grew through them. They used discipline to turn suffering into wisdom, pain into strength, and they left a roadmap so you can do the same. When something terrible happens, our first instinct is to ask, "Why me?" Or, "This isn't fair." The Stoics tell you to stop asking those questions immediately. Why? Because they lead nowhere. There's no satisfying answer, and you waste energy you should be using to deal with reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that should be etched into everyone's mind. Our life is what our thoughts make it. You don't control what happens to you. Your father dies. You lose your job. Your relationship ends. You get sick. That's not in your hands. But how you think about it and how you respond is entirely in your hands. Discipline in critical moments begins with radical acceptance, not passive resignation, but active acceptance. It's looking straight at a terrible situation and saying, "Okay, this happened, this is real. Now, what do I do?" No denial, no bargaining, no getting stuck in what if. Epictetus had a brutally honest technique for this. He said, "When you kiss your child or your spouse, remind yourself that you are kissing a mortal." Sounds cold. Think again. He was preparing you for inevitable loss. When you constantly remember that everything is temporary, when loss finally comes, you're prepared. It still hurts, but it doesn't destroy you. You can apply this right now. Look at the people you love and remember. They won't be here forever. Neither will I. That's not morbid, it's freeing. Because when you remember impermanence, you stop wasting time on petty arguments. You value each moment. You live with more presence and fewer regrets. But let's talk about what to do when tragedy has already struck and you're in the middle of the pain. Stoic discipline asks you to do something counterintuitive. Look for the hidden benefit. Not pretending it doesn't hurt, not minimizing the loss, but actively searching for what this experience can give you. Marcus Aurelius practiced this relentlessly. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every time something blocked his plans, he asked how it could be useful. War forced him to develop leadership. Betrayal taught him about human nature. Illness reminded him of life's fragility. Think about your own life. That painful rejection, did it force you to improve? That failure, did it teach you lessons success never could? That loss, did it make you value what you still have? If you're honest, you'll see that your greatest growth came from your worst moments. So when something bad happens, after acceptance, ask, "What can this teach me? How can I grow through this? What strength can I build here?" And then discipline yourself to actively search for those answers. There's another crucial point. The Stoics knew that shared suffering is diminished suffering. They didn't preach isolation. Marcus Aurelius had trusted advisors. Seneca had close friends he discussed philosophy with. Epictetus taught in community. When you're going through something hard, discipline includes asking for help. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. You weren't meant to carry everything alone. Find someone you trust and talk about what you're feeling. Seek a therapist if needed. Join a support group. And here's something that completely changed my perspective. Discipline in hard times also means allowing yourself to feel. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. Seneca cried when he lost loved ones. Marcus Aurelius felt deep sadness. The difference is, they didn't let emotion control them. There's a fine line between feeling sadness and being consumed by it, between honoring your pain and drowning in it. Discipline means fully feeling the emotion, giving it space, but not letting it make decisions for you. You cry, you feel, you process, and when the wave passes, you act with wisdom. Marcus Aurelius had a powerful crisis practice, expanding perspective. When something disturbed him, he imagined Earth from space. He saw how small his problem was on the scale of the universe. He remembered how many people throughout history had endured similar or worse suffering. It didn't erase the pain, but it put it in context. You can do this too. When something shakes you, zoom out. Ask yourself, will I still be thinking about this every day in 5 years? In 10 years? Probably not. And if it won't matter in 10 years, is it worth destroying yourself over today? That's the discipline of perspective. The Stoics also did something extremely practical. They prepared for crises before they happened. Remember premeditatio malorum. They regularly visualized loss, failure, disaster. So when it happened, the shock was smaller. You should do this too. Once a week, sit down and imagine bad things happening. You lose your job. A relationship ends. You get sick. You lose money. Then mentally plan, if this happens, I'll do X, Y, and Z. When a real crisis hits, you won't be frozen. You'll already have a plan, even if it's imperfect. But perhaps the most powerful Stoic practice in difficult moments is what Seneca called the view from above. It's the ability to see yourself from the outside, like a neutral observer. When you're deep in suffering, it's hard to think clearly. But when you mentally rise above yourself, clarity appears. Try this right now. Think of something that's bothering you. Now imagine floating above yourself, looking down. You see you dealing with this problem. What advice would you give that person? What truths would you notice that they can't see because they're too close? Most of the time, clarity comes instantly. You realize you're exaggerating, or that there's an obvious solution, or that you need help, or that time itself is the answer. The discipline of observing yourself from the outside is a powerful tool. And finally, the Stoics practiced memento mori, remembering that you will die. This creates tremendous discipline in hard moments. When you remember your time is limited, you stop wasting energy on trivial things. Someone offended you. Do you really want to spend your limited days angry? You failed. Do you want to waste precious time regretting or trying again? Someone hurt you. Would you rather stay trapped in the past or move forward? For the Stoics, death wasn't morbid. It was liberating. When you remember you're going to die, everything becomes clearer. What truly matters rises to the surface. What's just noise fades away, and you gain the discipline to focus on what's essential and let the rest go. We've arrived at the moment I promised you from the very beginning, the most powerful revelation of all, and I'll be direct with you. Everything we've talked about so far, every technique, every virtue, every Stoic teaching, boils down to one simple and devastatingly powerful truth that will completely change how you see discipline. Ready? Here it is. Discipline is not something you have or don't have. Discipline is who you are. Let that sink in. You don't find discipline. You don't get discipline. You become discipline. It's identity, not a tool. And that shift in perspective changes absolutely everything. When you think, I need more discipline, you're placing discipline outside of yourself. You're saying it's something separate, something you need to chase. But when you understand, I am disciplined, you change who you are at the deepest level. And when your identity changes, your actions follow automatically. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up wondering, should I be disciplined today? He was discipline embodied. Epictetus didn't debate whether he would exercise self-control. He was self-control. Seneca didn't negotiate with his principles. He was his principles. Do you see the difference? And here's the secret no one tells you. You decide your identity in every moment through the actions you take. Every small decision is a vote. You are voting for the kind of person you are becoming. And when enough votes accumulate in one direction, your identity changes. If you want to be disciplined, start acting the way a disciplined person would act, even when you don't feel like it. Every time you do, you reinforce that identity. You prove to yourself, I am the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of how I feel. Disciplined people don't wait for motivation. They act. Disciplined people don't negotiate with themselves. They decide and execute. Disciplined people don't make constant exceptions. They hold their standards, and the more you act this way, the more this becomes who you are. But there's an even deeper layer to this revelation. The Stoics discovered something that modern neuroscience confirmed 2,000 years later. You become what you consistently focus on. Your thoughts literally reshape your brain. Your actions literally rewire your neural chemistry. You are not stuck being who you are today. You are always becoming something. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions." He understood that thinking about discipline, visualizing yourself as disciplined, and acting in disciplined ways eventually transforms you into someone who is naturally disciplined. At that point, it's no longer effort, it's simply who you are. And here's the game-changing part. When discipline becomes identity, you stop fighting yourself. There's no internal war anymore. No version of you that wants to train fighting the version that wants to stay in bed. There's just you, a disciplined person, doing what disciplined people do. Think about someone who is naturally honest. They don't debate whether to lie. They simply don't, because that's not who they are. In the same way, when you truly become disciplined, there's no debate. You just act. The Stoics had a beautiful word for this, eudaimonia. It's often translated as happiness, but it means much more. It's human flourishing, living in alignment with your highest nature, becoming the best version of yourself, and discipline is the path that leads there. Seneca said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not on external circumstances, not on luck, not on what others do, on you, on your character, on the strength of your discipline." And that's both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it places total responsibility on you. No excuses, no one else to blame. Your life is the result of your disciplined or undisciplined choices, but liberating because it means you have the power. You're not at the mercy of the world. You can change everything by changing yourself. Now comes the moment of truth. Everything you've heard in this video, all these ideas, principles, and techniques, means absolutely nothing if you don't act. The Stoics despised knowledge without action. Epictetus was blunt. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. So here's your real challenge. Choose one area of your life where discipline is lacking. Health, work, relationships, finances. Choose one right now. Then define one small, simple action that a disciplined person in that area would do every day. Not something heroic, something sustainable. Want discipline in your health? Walk for 15 minutes every day, no exceptions. Want discipline in your work? Focus for 25 minutes a day on one important task. Want discipline financially? Track every dollar you spend each day. Small, simple, sustainable. Do it for 30 consecutive days without missing once. Why? Because every day you follow through, you cast a vote for the identity of a disciplined person. And after 30 days of consistency, you're no longer the person who started. You've changed. You've proven to yourself that you are disciplined. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, confine yourself to the present. Don't think about 30 days. Think about today, just today. Tomorrow, think only about tomorrow. When you break things into small pieces, the impossible becomes possible. You're not building a lifetime of discipline today. You're just being disciplined today, and then you repeat it tomorrow. But here's something crucial. You will fail. There will be days you fall short, moments of weakness, and that's okay. The Stoics weren't perfect. Marcus Aurelius admitted his flaws. Seneca failed many times. Epictetus had setbacks. The difference is that they didn't let failure define their identity. When you fail, and you will, do what Seneca practiced. Acknowledge it immediately, extract the lesson, forgive yourself, and start again at the very next moment. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, the next available moment. One failure doesn't make you undisciplined. Quitting after failure does. And there's one final truth I need to tell you. Time is passing right now. As you watch this video, your life is happening. You are getting older, Opportunities are slipping by. The people you love are aging. Seneca wrote something that should be on everyone's wall. While we are postponing, life speeds by. You can keep planning to start tomorrow, next week, next year, but tomorrow never arrives. There is only today, only now, and every later is a piece of your life you'll never get back. The Stoics challenge you to start now, not after this video, not after more thinking, not after perfect preparation, now. Close this video if you need to, and take the first disciplined action of your new identity. Send that difficult message. Do the first workout. Start that project. Now. Because here is the final truth, the most powerful revelation of all. You are already capable of everything you need to do. The discipline you're searching for already exists within you. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to stop sabotaging yourself, stop hiding, stop being afraid of your own power. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength was always there. You were just looking in the wrong place, searching outside for what can only be found within. So here's my final challenge. If you made it this far, if these truths resonated, prove it wasn't just entertainment. Prove you're ready to change. Go to the comments right now and write, "I choose discipline." Just 3 words. But when you write them publicly, you create commitment. You declare your new identity to the world. Then subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. This journey doesn't end here. Discipline is a daily practice, and I'll keep bringing content that keeps you on the path, reminds you who you decided to be, and strengthens you when you feel like quitting. There are 2 videos on screen now that will deepen this transformation even further. One on how the Stoics faced extreme adversity and emerged stronger, and another on building unbreakable resilience using ancient Stoic techniques. Watch them. Don't let this fire die out. But more important than any video, any content, or any words I can say, act. Do something now, not tomorrow, now. Because only action turns knowledge into wisdom. Only practice turns potential into reality. Only discipline transforms who you are into who you can become. The Stoics aren't here to save you. I'm not here to save you. Only you can do that, and you always could. Now go. Close this video and begin.